All right, welcome to Module 1. Today we are going to talk about quantum stillness and inner calibration. Stillness and inner calibration, as well as awareness, are kind of the first steps in this layering of quantum alignment. And so, what I mean by quantum stillness is when you recognize yourself out of alignment. So when you recognize these aspects of yourself that are anxious, that have reoccurring self-doubt, or these thoughts that are really just consuming you, that is when it's most important to become quantumly still. And what I mean by that is becoming aware of all the different layers of you, sitting with them and allowing them to be as they are. So it's not about suppressing or repressing feelings. It's really more so about completely feeling them and embodying them and allowing them to pass through us, so that we can move forward. And so a lot of times the easiest way to move forward is to sit with what's coming up from our past. And so that ties into nervous system regulation or awareness, and present moment embodiment. And so a few really good action items for regulating the nervous system and present moment embodiment is asking yourself quantum questions. And so some of the best quantum questions that I've found that are really easy to spark up this awareness is, who am I? Where am I? What am I doing? What is the most easeful path? And am I trying or am I being? And what am I feeling and where am I feeling it? And so the top three I would say are the most primary. Who am I? Where am I? And what am I doing? So even if you ask yourself this right now, so if you take a moment for inner calibration and you sit in stillness, so you take a few deep breaths. So even do this with me right now. So we're going to breathe in and let it go. Breathe in. Let it go. Breathe in. And let it go. And just sit in stillness. You notice the thoughts. You notice the emotions as they arise. And you ask yourself, and even if you ask yourself in your head or out loud, who am I? Where am I? What am I doing? What this does, who you are at your core, is your true self, not your false self, your soul. Where am I? And honestly, these aren't questions that you answer with your mind. These are just awarenesses. Where are you? You're in the eternal now, in the quantum field, the space of variations. What are you doing? Well, when you ask yourself this, you become aware of whether you're doing something either consciously or unconsciously, if you're doing something habitually or intentionally, if you are reaffirming your past paradigm, the past reality, the past identity, or if you're moving forward in the state of becoming and you're creating through surrender. And what am I feeling and where am I feeling it? That gives you a moment to drop into the body, to do a body scan, to become aware of if anything's coming up in the body, and you allow that to be as it is and allow it to move at its own pace. So what am I feeling and where am I feeling? This allows you to feel sensations. So even right now, you can drop into these questions. What am I feeling and where am I feeling it? It could be your shoulders, it could be your back, it could be your feet. And you just allow those sensations to move. And then it comes into, am I trying or am I being? And this question is a quantum question that brings us into allowing. Because when we are being, we're not trying. We don't have to try to be what we are, right? It just is who we are. So when we are being, that is actually a state of allowing. When we are trying, we are actually trying to will into existence. And like I spoke about on the past modules, in the blueprint, when we are actually being ourselves and we are allowing into our life, we have chosen to surrender the will power. So we're moving from free will into freedom. And free will is the conscious choice to give it up, to lay it down, to not hold on to it, to not try and manipulate life, but more so allow the abundance that we already are to be. So the next step is inner awareness as an entry point to our quantum potential or our quantum power. So becoming aware of our inner landscape allows us to actually notice when we are out of alignment. And what I mean by inner landscape is noticing sensations, noticing the thought, noticing smell, noticing sight, noticing taste, noticing sound, noticing the sensation within your body as well as around your body. And what this does is it recalibrates you to where am I, the eternal now. And it allows us to become aware of how we are either responding or reacting to life, as well as if we are operating from any false identities. If we are operating from an illusory self, it is going to bring up a lot of this anxiety, a lot of this inner turmoil, this inner conflict. But the truth is that inner conflict is not bad either, because it is just information. It's just information that's bringing us back to ourselves. And so the truth is that on all spectrums of emotions, all spectrums of sensations, all spectrums of life are actually welcome, because we can create from any aspect of ourselves because we are multidimensional. And when we choose consciously to align with that path or that reality or that timeline of ourself that is most easeful, it allows things to just happen. And then some tools that actually help deepen these awareness would be coherent breathing, Nodishadana or alternate nostril breathing, and a self-awareness practice. And so the self-awareness practice just goes deeper back into all of these layers, but as well as a concept called turning the key. And so I'll get into that in a moment, and I'll actually leave a link below. But coherent breathing is it's frequency breathing. Coherent breathing is geometry breathing. And so there's many different ways to use coherent breathing, but the one that I choose is a 3-6 breath. So it's 3 seconds in, 6 seconds out. And what that looks like is you're trying to breathe low, slow, and deep. So you're trying to expand and release the breath. So you're breathing out twice as long as you're breathing in. And what that looks like is you're breathing in, you're filling your belly, your ribs, your back, and then your chest. And then you're exhaling for 6. And that is a reverse of the other breath. So you're letting your chest fall, you're letting your ribs fall, you're letting your belly fall, and you're letting your diaphragm expand. And if you do this breath, 3 in, 6 out, for at least 2 to 5 minutes, best case 10 minutes every day, this will drastically change the brain waves at which you operate. And when we can change the brain waves and we can create coherency in the brain, it makes it much easier to align to our authentic self because we are operating from a different wavelength. And like I said, it's not a matter of good or bad. All wavelengths and all frequencies, all emotions, all thoughts are welcome, but they're merely barometers to bring us back to ourselves. And so it's not about suppressing or repressing, it's about fully feeling. But when we have tools for our awakening, for our alignment, it helps us and it helps the path be more easeful. Alternate nostril breathing is essentially you are breathing in through one nostril and breathing out through the other. And there's multiple different ways to do that, but a simple way is to exhale. You plug one nostril, you breathe in, hold, and breathe out. Hold. And you do this back and forth. And so I'll also leave a guided and instructed breath work on that as well. But that really helps create coherency through the right and left hemisphere of the brain. And so if you look right here, we have a brain. We have the right and left hemisphere, and we have, oh, we have what's called the corpus callosum. And the corpus callosum is in the middle of the brain, and it helps connect the two sides. So here we have the thalamus, the hypothalamus, the pineal and pituitary gland, and then above that, we have the cerebellum, and then we have the cortex, so the prefrontal cortex, which is part of the neocortex. And what happens is as we start to connect this part of the brain, it syncs the right and the left hemispheres of the brain, allowing more coherency, which allows it to sync to the heart. So I will leave some instructions and some actually guided practices for these below. If you want to rewatch this to create more awareness around it, go ahead. But if not, we'll get on to Module 2.
Hey guys, David here. So thank you again for tuning into this video series. I really appreciate having you here today. If this information, this wisdom resonates with you, feel free to like, share, subscribe, pass this on to someone you feel like might resonate with this information. As well as I have a option for donations here in the description. And so if that's something you feel called to, the donations really just kind of help further my ability to share this online education and to increase the quality and capacity to continue to do this. So really grateful to have you here and look forward to continuing the journey together.